The first laugh came before the bell rang. It was sharp, careless, and loud enough to echo through the cracked hallway walls. When Sarah Malik stepped into classroom 11 for the very first time, clutching her lesson plan in a thin brown envelope, she felt that laugh land on her chest like a stone. 30 pairs of eyes turned toward her, some curious, most bored, a few already cruel. She was the new teacher at Ridgeway Public School, a place known more for broken windows than second chances, and the students had already decided she wouldn't last. She stood there anyway. Sarah was not what they expected. She didn't shout. She didn't threaten. She didn't pretend she wasn't scared. Her hands trembled slightly as she wrote her name on the board, but her voice was steady. "Good morning," she said softly. "I'm Ms. Malik. I know some of you don't want me here. That's okay. I'm here anyway." That honesty confused them, and confusion quickly turned into a game. The bullies sensed weakness, the way sharks sensed blood. Chairs scraped loudly when she turned her back. Paper balls flew. A boy named Jason, tall, confident, cruel, mocked her accent under his breath. Another student hit her chalk. Someone played a loud ringtone in the middle of her sentence and laughed when she flinched. 60 seconds into her first lesson, they had decided to break her. What they didn't know was that Sarah Malik had already been broken before. Years earlier, she had stood at a hospital bed holding her mother's hand, promising she wouldn't quit teaching even when the world made it impossible. She had worked nights, studied on buses, and taught in shelters where children slept with their shoes on. Ridgeway wasn't her dream job. It was the only place that said yes. And she had promised herself she would not run again. So when Jason stood up and said loudly, "Miss, you look lost. Maybe you should go back where you came from," the room erupted in laughter. Sarah closed her eyes for one brief second. Then she smiled. "I'm just returning this envelope," she said calmly, lifting the thin brown packet from her bag. "I found it on my desk when I arrived." That made them laugh harder. "An envelope?" Jason sneered. "What's in it?" "Your resignation." Sarah walked to the front desk and placed the envelope down carefully, as if it mattered. "I don't know," she said. "It doesn't belong to me, but it belongs to someone in this school." The bell rang, cutting through the noise. Students slumped into their seats, still smirking. The bullying didn't stop that day or the next. They tested her every hour. They whispered insults. They made bets on how long she'd last. 60 seconds, 2 weeks, a month, max. But Sarah kept showing up. She learned their names. She noticed who never brought lunch. She stayed late to help a girl who couldn't read without shaking. When Jason was sent to the office for fighting, Sarah was the only teacher who asked why, instead of how hard he hit. Still, the bullying escalated. One afternoon, during a staff meeting, a well-dressed man walked into the school office. Expensive suit, gold watch, confident smile. He was a local millionaire known for donating money to schools for the right publicity. He laughed loudly as the principal greeted him, joking about these hopeless kids and throwing money at broken systems. Sarah happened to be there. Standing quietly near the door, she stepped forward and held out the envelope. "I'm just returning this envelope," she said politely. "It was left in my classroom." The millionaire barely glanced at it. He chuckled. "That's not mine," he said dismissively. "Probably some donation request. I get hundreds." Some teachers smiled nervously. Others looked away. Then the office door opened again. An older man walked in, simple clothes, tired eyes, but a presence that filled the room. The laughter stopped. The principal straightened instantly. "Mr. Rahman," the principal said, stunned. "We didn't know you were coming today." The millionaire's smile froze. Mr. Rahman was the real owner of the school's land, a former teacher himself, quiet, private. He funded scholarships anonymously. He believed dignity mattered more than donations. He looked at the envelope in Sarah's hands. "That's mine," he said gently. Sarah handed it to him without a word. He opened it slowly. Inside was a handwritten note and a check meant to fund a reading program for underperforming students. A program Sarah had unknowingly protected when she refused to throw the envelope away. But Mr. Rahman turned to the room. "This teacher," he said, nodding at Sarah, "is the first person here who didn't laugh, didn't judge, and didn't assume it was trash." The millionaire said nothing. The story spread through the school like wildfire. But the real turning point came back in classroom 11. Jason tried to interrupt her lesson again, but this time, the room was quiet. No one laughed. A girl in the back whispered, "Stop." Sarah looked at Jason, not with anger, but with understanding. "You don't have to be cruel to be seen," she said. "I see you already." Something broke in him then. His voice cracked. He sat down. In less than 60 seconds, the bullies who once mocked her were silent, not because they were afraid, but because they were ashamed. Weeks passed. Then months. Grades improved. Fights decreased. Jason started staying after class to help stack chairs. One day, he mumbled, "Sorry, miss," without meeting her eyes. She nodded, accepting it without ceremony. At the end of the year, Sarah stood alone in her classroom, the walls now covered in student work. The same room that once tried to crush her now felt like home. She hadn't changed the world. She had just refused to walk away from it. And sometimes, that's enough. The lesson lingered long after the final bell. True strength doesn't shout. Real dignity doesn't laugh at others, and the people who seem weakest are often carrying the heaviest courage of all.